Welcome back to PA Live. Our next guest is zooming in from New York City, where she recently kicked off a book tour that's giving the TikTok generation a new perspective on dating, relationships, and self-love. I Didn't Know I Needed This is available now, and let me tell you, the people, including myself, are absolutely loving it. So this afternoon, a personal favorite influencer and now author of mine, Eli Rallo, is joining us on the show. Welcome to PA Live, and congratulations. What a week for you.
Thank you so much. I know it's been crazy. It still doesn't feel real.
Yeah, oh, I'm so happy for you, and I know so many followers of yours attest to this sentiment, as it couldn't go to a better person, and I think we're so excited to see you kind of fulfilling this dream. But my first question to you is, like, me and a lot of us, we've known you to exist in the digital world. You were the Carrie Bradshaw of our generation, of the TikTok generation, and now you're very much in the literary print media space, which I know is something that has always been important to you, a big goal of yours. So how do you view the two? Do you think your role changes based on where people are getting your content?
You know, I think it's really special when you find creators who do kind of go across different mediums, and that's all sorts of things. You know, there's YouTube, there's podcasts, there's people who do red carpet hosting. It's so creative, and TikTok is such a beautiful place to sort of have like a jumping off point. And I think so many of my peers that are also creators on TikTok have made such amazing careers for themselves out of being a creator on TikTok. And I think TikTok also really celebrates that, which is awesome. I really consider myself a writer first, so I feel very at home in publishing, but I think it's nice to have another medium that sort of challenges you. And creating on TikTok really keeps me on my toes, and I feel very like sharp and up to date. I feel like I have my finger on the pulse because, you know, what is hot on TikTok first.
Yeah.
So it's really great to kind of be straddling both worlds, and I'm really lucky that TikTok is a place that really celebrates creatives of all kind.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. And I think your TikTok content and your published book content both tap into these super vulnerable feelings, and you really take us into your headspace. I want to first ask you about your relationships. You're super candid about the boys and men that you've fallen in love with, which I loved reading about. But as a reader, it was easy for me to kind of fall for these guys right alongside you, whether it was in college or when you moved to New York or anything like that. In retrospect, was it hard for you to tap back into those lovey-dovey feelings, knowing like how the book ends, they ultimately hurt you and they become kind of toxic in some circumstances? Was it hard for you to get back to those initial feelings to make us feel the way that you felt?
Thank you so much for that. That's a very high compliment. I think that it wasn't so much difficult tapping into those things because I still have residual emotions around them, but it was more so just mourning a version of myself that I feel is in a way like that version of me who fell for the version of the person I was writing about is sort of dead or null and void. I'm not that person anymore, but I was, and like she's a part of me in a way. So I feel kind of like nostalgic and almost like I wish I could go back, and though I don't have any regrets, sort of like tell her what I know now kind of vibe. But ultimately, it wasn't that difficult. It was honestly very therapeutic. And I think the really difficult part was removing some of the distaste I might have for the end so that I could paint a really beautiful picture of how I was feeling in the beginning. And I think that the time and space away from these people, and also the healing that I've done, and, you know, being quote over them, unquote, allowed me to go back to that place of those like feelings of affection and early love, even though I know how it ended, and many people who have finished the book now know how it ended as well.
Yeah, I also think it's just so beautiful for my own experience, and anybody reading it almost gives you permission to not judge yourself for those past feelings, because there was a version of you that fell for that guy, and that is a beautiful thing at its core. So I love that you're kind of giving us permission to tap into that because you do it so vulnerably in the book. My next question for you, Eli, I want to talk about your family. I know they've been super instrumental to you through this whole process, and you even wore your mom's dress to the first stop on your book tour this week in New York, which was so fun to see. What do your parents have to say about this book? On the one hand, like we've been talking about, it's super vulnerable. That's got to be interesting to kind of get their takes, to your credit, but also might be awkward in some ways to hear their takes on that. But on the other hand, you're also introducing them to this entirely new generation's dating culture, right? Like I think my mom is surprised to know what it's like these days. Was it weird for your parents to read it so vulnerably?
You know, I think it was definitely interesting, and they're used to sort of my personality, and I'm very open book, very confident, very brazen. I sort of say what's on my mind. So they're certainly used to content, quote unquote, about dating that I've shared on the internet, or just my own stories that I've shared online, or even like at the dinner table. I'm a very open person, and I have very cool, easygoing sort of modern. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it. My parents aren't very traditional people. So it's nice to have people that are like actively willing to learn and sort of want to be on the helm of what's cool, popular, trendy, what's going on with Gen Z now. I think that's definitely a big help because they really do get where I'm coming from and what I'm trying to accomplish and have been so supportive, which is really amazing. And, you know, I respect any boundaries that they would want to set, but they've just been really, really supportive and so excited and kind of right there with me, which has been really incredible.
Yeah, and like as for audience, I think this book might be a really great resource for parents who maybe are trying to understand what their 20-something daughters are going through. I think it just paints a really beautiful picture for a daughter who maybe isn't so open. I think that's another cool avenue of who might really benefit from a book like yours, which I love. Another question for you, Eli. I want to talk about the cover. It's behind me here, gorgeous. I love the color scheme. It was fun to watch your process through these creative choices on TikTok, which I followed every step of the way. But was there any talk about you being on the cover? I imagine you might have gotten some pushback for that. I mean, you're so recognizable, especially online. Were there people who really wanted your face on the cover of the book, and why did you pick against that?
You know, I'm really, really lucky that I have a team that really wanted me to do this book as a writer and wanted me to be a debut author and not just an influencer with a book. And I think if that's your journey, that's your journey. And I respect that and I love that. And there are so many influencers who have books, but I really want to be an author with a TikTok presence. And that's my journey. And that's like my hopes and goals and dreams for myself. So with that in mind, I think that putting my face on the book is something that a lot of celebrities and public figures and influencers do when they sell books, because they always want their first thing to be the content creator, the podcast host, the TikToker, et cetera, et cetera. And again, that's so cool. No shade to that at all. But I knew for me, I really wanted to be known as an author first. And I really wanted to work to sort of kind of find that corner of the world for myself. And I think I'm still working on it. I mean, it's very new and people are always going to know me as a TikToker first right now, because that's how I got my start. And that's the most recognizable thing. But I think by sort of going in a more literary direction with the cover and less literal and having myself on it, it sort of helps to kind of start finding that niche for myself as an author. So I definitely knew I didn't want to be on the cover, and I'm very lucky that my team, you know, they were ready to help me find my footing in the world of publishing, which is really exciting. And I'm still trying to figure it out. Obviously, it's early days.
No, you're doing such a fantastic job. I am such a fan of yours. I think I could talk to you all day long about this book and everything in the book. So I encourage everyone watching to grab themselves a copy. It would be a great gift for the holiday season. And remember to follow Eli. I'm sure you are already, but if you're not, be sure to do that, because there's many rules to learn from Eli. Thank you for spending some time with us here on the show. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been wonderful.
Of course, and you at home stay with us. More with PA Live right after the break.